I love Lent. And I like going through it every year because every year it's different. It's different for me on the journey that I go on. I can remember very well we would just find all these little obscure things to kind of to give up for Lent, right? And as if that really has a tremendous impact on my spiritual journey. You know, I don't know, not eating avocado seeds really never did much for me. And it really helped me kind of dig in about what's the whole point and purpose for all this Lenten stuff that we deal with. And it really, as I really start looking deeper and deeper and deeper, which is exactly where we're supposed to go, get off the surface and start journeying a little inward about the depth of all that we go through. And I tell you, this sounds weird, but the multiple experiences I've had with people that I love in my life who've died really helps you really understand what, the depth of life and what it's calling us to be as a people, and a lot of your fears kind of shed away from that. I'm not encouraging that, but I'm just saying that's where we're supposed to go, is always inward. And so, spending this season talking about the wilderness experience that Jesus went through, and that is a wonderful thing to do. And I like to think that we spend our time looking at Jesus, the temptations that confronted Jesus. Jesus really, I don't think, was confronting them. I think they confront him. And if anybody knows anything about like all the temptations or addictions that we have, it's just not a real subtle thing. It's not like, well, I wonder I choose avocado seeds to eat or not. It hits you like a hammer. And then it's always calling you to do something that looks like it's going to produce great fun. And then it ends up being a tragedy or causes chaos. And so when we're looking at the temptations that confronted Jesus in the wilderness, this is a great time to really break them down and look at the depth of what they are. Because when Jesus is in the wilderness, it's really calling him to really understand what is the method out of which he was going to share his ministry. How is he going to fulfill his life and his ministry? It's the same thing we have. I know we hire people to do ministry for us, but we're all ministers. Every last one of us. We have a life that we live. We don't have compartmental lives. We have one life. And we're called to live that one life as it best reflects the God that sends us into the world. And we need to really understand that. And so we look at Jesus' temptations. We're looking at our temptations. And once I started doing that, it really made a whole lot more sense to me. And so these are the three temptations that are confronted with Jesus. And really, how am I going to conduct my life? How am I going to fulfill my journey in my life? Am I going to live my life just to satisfy my hungers? Where are we? Here we are. Are we going to live our lives of just trying to satisfy my hunger, every craving, every impulse that I have, and just listen to this and listen to what I feel inside of me? Am I just going to satisfy all those cravings? Or am I going to focus my attention on God's purpose for my life, the purpose that God gave me, that God gave us? What's our focus going to be? And we see that a lot of times with church conflicts, is that one person wants to oppose their will over the rest or other people. And so then it becomes a battle of whose will are we going to live, whose cravings or whose hunger are we going to battle against. If our focus is where is God leading us, that's a different story, isn't it? Then we can have conversation. We call that discernment. What's the second temptation? Is that am I going to use God? Am I going to use Scripture for my personal gain, for my benefit, so that I can use God to support my agendas? We see this a lot. Or am we going to reflect God in all situations with all human beings, period, and allow God to be God? That's hard, isn't it? That's a tough one too. None of these are easy. And here's the third one. In all of our relationships that we have, regardless of what they are, regardless of whatever relationship, do I assert my power and control over people so that I can get the way that I want? Or do we go through a very challenging process of establishing relationships with people in order to empower them to be what God created them to be and to do the very things that God is calling them to do? You know why that's hard? Because that means we got to get our act together. In fulfilling what our purpose might be, or as a people or as a person, is a hard process. It took 30 years for Jesus to do that, and very intentional acts of doing that before he was baptized, and now he has to decide, how am I going to conduct my life? How am I going to work with the people around me? But in this wilderness experience is where that he decided that he was going to go through the challenging process of taking each person as an individual child of God, regardless of what side they're on, regardless of who they are, regardless if they're in the religious world or the demonic world. It didn't matter. He was going to develop those relationships. He's going to communicate that they are a child of God, and he's going to work on them so that they can be empowered to be what it was that God called them to be. And so when he is there in this wilderness, he's making this conscious choice. And all those choices he made are highlighted in red. And then when all that was done, he made the conscious choice, and this is where I'm going to go through this 40-day period of fasting. That is when we read that final line. Then the devil just gave up, left him. Then the angels came and attended to him. Now, I want to make this very, very, very clear. This would not be the only time that Jesus isolates himself. We see this so many times throughout his ministry. He'd pull away, him or disciples, or he would go off into deserted places, or he can be alone and have this time with God. He would be in isolation so the angels could continue to tend to him. And without those methodical processes of isolation and being quiet and being still and being in prayer, away from all the nasty noises that take place here and out there, then you know what happens? That's when the devil just kind of comes back around again. And if we really stay away from those places, that's when we begin to listen to all of those voices that take place. And then our choices don't even resemble the things that Jesus did. Now, last week I did talk a little bit about the devil. Not my favorite person. But I always referred to him as, I never thought of the devil as this third-party person, you know? The one that's always trying to throw darts at you just to kind of tick you off, distract you a little bit. Never looked at that way. I didn't think that was very productive for how I chose to live my life. And I think it was Alexander the Great that really coined the phrase, or at least he's given credit to doing that, when he said, I have met the enemy, and the enemy is, yeah, it's I. Yeah, the enemy is I. And the challenge that Jesus was confronted with in the wilderness is, how will I respond to the world around me? How will I respond positively in a way that best represents God to a world that's going to criticize me or go against me or cancel me because I'm choosing to be a reflection of what God is in my life? How am I going to confront betrayal? How am I going to confront all of the rejection that I will receive? How am I going to act and behave with the injustice that I see around me? How's he going to do it? Would he retaliate emotionally? Would he use God against the people that he didn't like? Is he going to use his power and control to get his way? Because in reality, those are the three temptations. Those aren't just Jesus' temptations. Those are our temptations, aren't they? I mean, don't we do that every single moment of every single day? We have to come to an understanding. We have to make choices of how we're going to handle people in our lives. Not just the ones that like us, not just the ones who believe the same way I believe, and I can have my little group of people so I'm not happy and we'll just reject everybody else. How are we going to handle it? Every single day we got to make these choices. How are we going to handle people? How are we going to handle people and confront people who reject us, who say things horrible against us, who cancel us, who betray us? How are we going to handle those who are under the stress of injustice? What are we going to do? How are we going to take care of that? And this, to me, is what wilderness was all about for Jesus. He had to get a handle on his ego, or what we refer to as Satan, so that he could respond to people in a manner that best represented the God who sent him. This is our ministry. And he had to keep revisiting this place of isolation over and over and over and over again. Because those voices that we let into our head from all around us, they're going to get our attention. And they're going to help to make us react in ways that contradict the God who sends us. You think that's easy to do? It's not, people. And just because you put a cross around your neck doesn't make it go away. It just means it's going to get harder. Because now through our baptism, we're saying, now it's going to get real. And now people are going to come at us because we want to treat people a certain way when our group says you can't do that. We see that more now than ever before. It's all those voices. I did something by accident the other day. Well, the other year. I never talked about it. So put on your seatbelts. No, it's not bad. In fact, if I'd known what I was about to do, I never would have signed up to do it. But because I did, I went through it, and on the other side, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I took a trip to Honduras by myself. It was one of those modes I was in, writing books and stuff, trying to do some isolation. So I went to Honduras. Honduras is a pretty cool place. Great beaches, great islands and such. And so in the middle of that time, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to an island. I'm going to spend 2 nights there. That'd be kind of neat, wouldn't it? You know, we have these ideas of what it was going to be like. But, you know, that's what brochures are about. About ideas, not about reality. And so I knew I was in trouble when I got picked up at the beach in this little wooden canoe with a motor on it, thank goodness. And so I was going, well, it's different. So I get in, we make our way all the way out in the ocean, and I started noticing that there's no land, I can't see anything around me. And then we come up to this island, and there's this dock that's there, and we get on, they put me on the dock, throw my bag up on the dock, and the guy comes out and greets me. And then I get out, and no one speaks English, which is perfect, because I know nothing but English. And so here I was trying to navigate this whole thing, and it was pretty desolate island. And so I'm out there walking toward it, and then it takes me straight just up the little place, and there's I don't know, we'll call it a cabin. And there, you could see through it. The slats are so wide. And I'm thankful for that, because that was the air conditioning I found out. And so I get in there, they go inside, and this cabin is filled with, I don't know, 15, 20 bunk beds. And so, oh great, it's a dorm. So now I'm going to spend time with all these people I don't know in a sweaty cabin. Kind of like I had sons, so I know what that's like. And so I was going, I don't like this. I went to the restroom, and out of the ceiling was this pipe, and you can turn the water on, and it went into a 55-gallon drum. It had a bowl. That's how you took a shower, right there. They didn't have electricity except at night, so you can at least have fans. So I was really thankful for that. And so I was the only one there. And there's a couple of smaller places out back that people lived that would take care of the people on the island, but I was the only one there. And so all these things are adding up that, okay, I'm starting to have some anxiety. I don't know where I'm at. I can't see land outside of here. I missed the class in seminary. It taught you how to walk on water, so I was stuck, right? And so there I was just trying to navigate this, and I was really starting to get anxious. I was trying to, in my brain, how can I get out of here? For the next 15 to 16 hours, I was a mess. Nightfall came, the first night there, I didn't sleep hardly a bit. And I'm just wrestling with myself. And usually what happens when I get in these types of situations is the coach in me starts to come out. So I start coaching myself. Okay, we got to do something differently. We got to come up with a better plan instead of always reacting. You know how good we are to react to every life? And now I need to come up with a plan so I can address it. I can respond appropriately. Responding appropriately is a whole lot different than always reacting. That's where we get all emotional stuff. And so, okay, I got to tackle this situation. So I did. I got up in the morning, I thought, I'm going to be the one that starts to instigate everything. I'll go out and visit with people, communicate best I could. I'll walk around a little bit in the area, kind of explore a little bit. I heard kids out there. I'll find kids. I can do kids all day. I can jack with them as well as anybody. And so I started doing this, started blending in. We looked around a little bit, had lunch, and the heat of the day came in, and the kids wanted to show me their favorite place. So I said, all right. And the island was also a jungle. So we're going down this narrow pass through this jungle. And I was getting a little nervous, but we just kept waiting. We went up for miles. And so we went there, we navigated through there, and the kids are having fun, I'm having fun. And we start going up this hill, and we get up to the top of this rocky terrain, come around there, and then there's another trail that starts to go down, and then it opens up. And right where it opened up was the most beautiful beach I've ever seen in my life. And I looked down and thought, oh my gosh, this is what you see in movies. It's picturesque. And so I got excited. So we all ran down there to the beach. And me and all those kids, we played on that beach, 3 or 4 hours. We had so much fun playing with stuff that you don't play with, hair things and stuff like that. And it was just a great time. Then it started getting late, so we started heading back through the jungle. And then I started to navigate people there. And at nightfall, I went back on the dock where the guy had greeted me. He was still there. And we talked all night long without even knowing what we're saying. But we were just there. We just had a great time. And the next day, it's time to go home. And honestly, I didn't want to go. I wanted to stay there. But honestly, I'm kind of afraid to go back. I'm afraid to go back because I got reintroduced here to all the distractions, to all the noises, to all the media junk that's all over the place. And if I had to go back, I would have to go through that anxiety again. I would have to confront those temptations that says, this is who you aren't and what they are not, and you must attack it. I had to stop listening to my ego that said, run. I had to stop listening to that Satan again. And I had to go through all that again in order to find peace again. And that's a lot of work. And I really don't know, I probably should, but that was a hard lesson for me. And what I take away from that is this, is that it's amazing what we learn about ourselves when we take ourselves away from distractions. Isolation is a good thing. It's amazing what we learned about ourselves when we allow ourselves to get uncomfortable. And even to invite anxiety and sit with it, and all those voices that try to convince us to live in chaos, to live in division groups that we create, to live in our justifiable hatred of others. Now, we don't say the word hate, but our actions are more towards hate than they are love. And this is really what the wilderness experience with Jesus was all about. Does Jesus react to chaos and hatred with actions of hatred? Or does he choose to respond in a manner that best reflects the God who sent him? He chose that. And that, my friends, is our struggle today. And I really want to talk through this after Easter. because I think if we learn how to be the appropriate reflection of God who sends us, then we can be very powerful in our community. Because when we sit in this wilderness experience with Jesus, we're confronted with the same exact question that we need to answer. Who do we choose to be Lord of our life? Is it God? Or is it going to be Satan or our egos? Because both are within us. One is a quiet voice that you need silence to hear, and the other is very loud, making false promises. So how can we reflect God's way of life, so that the scriptures begin to turn towards us and says, you know, the devil left Open Door Christian Church. And now it's the angels who come and attend to us. For us to experience this would be amazing. Even better, stand on top of a jungle, looking down at a beach that you never knew existed. Let us pray.